Do they have a reason to come work for them? Do they have a reason to stay working for them? And those are some really easy kind of opportunities to help them elevate their teams.
That's really good insight and makes me want to go check out ours.
I know. What's up? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chicks in Charge Automotive Edition. Today, we have a very special guest with us. She is the head of enterprise accounts. This is a new role for her because prior to that, she was the director of business talent at NCM. Please welcome Fleming Ford.
Hi. Hey, guys. Good to see you.
You too. How are you doing today?
Good. Was looking forward to talking with you. I know we always have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited. I think the last place that we saw you was at the Women in Automotive Social that NCM and VinQ hosted in Kansas City.
Yeah, and you guys did a phenomenal job helping host that, by the way. Put a lot of energy into the room.
Fantastic partners with us to help us with that. Between NCM and VinQ, it was a phenomenal social. We were so excited about it.
Well, there's a lot of, how many people were there? There was a lot of people.
I think that there were 72 total, but we sold out of tickets a couple, maybe a week or two before the social, and we sold out at 60. So there was more people than what actually even signed up that came.
So there's a lot of people who want to be chicks in charge, I guess.
For sure. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. And that was our very first one. So it was super exciting.
Well, I can see why you're adding so many because you guys have a natural talent for doing that. So excited to see you grow that whole Women in Automotive network.
Yes, it's very needed. So as someone who has as many years as you do in the industry.
Talk about many years.
Well, tenure.
Well seasoned.
Yes, there we go. Explain, where you came from and how you got to where you are now to any of our listeners who aren't yet familiar with you.
So I actually started out in consulting. I've always been in how do you grow your team, develop your team, retain your team. I've always been with consulting firms that specialized in all that. And when I actually was younger, I started with a new consulting company and they gave us a stack of leads. This is back in the day when leads were like people would write, please call me from NADA. And so they handed me leads and they divided them out amongst the salespeople. And I got so many appointments with automotive dealers. And I thought I was like a rock star. And in reality, it's because my name is Fleming Ford that everybody just put me right through to the GM thinking I was doing a dealer trade. So I really just started off really quickly with a lot of automotive clients because, our line was, hey, are you having a turnover problem? And they were all like, we are actually. So ended up running a vertical in automotive and have been there really ever since. And I really started working with how do you hire the talent? How do you find the talent? Then I quickly realized we still turned over the talent because we didn't know how to build culture. We didn't know how to lead the talent. We didn't know how to keep them engaged. So really worked with dealerships on building their cultures and their leadership teams and, really helping as dealerships are now scaling, how do they elevate their teams to have the people kind of crucial skills they need in order to meet business objectives. And did that for quite a while. With a company called ESI Trends, where we did the NADA workforce study and did a lot of work around, what is driving a lot of this turnover and how do we better attract more talent to the industry. And then got into executive coaching, where coaching a lot of GMs and dealer principals and a lot of women GMs, which has been fun. And NCM and I have been partnering and talking over the years. They wanted to build out this whole human capital talent solutions to map to kind of the operational side of the business that they're so well known for. And so joined them about a year ago and have been kind of going full speed ever since. So, and that's where to meet you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's an interesting thing that I think we even have to get back to now. I think that for a couple of years, maybe we let hiring and retention fall by the wayside because we were all so worried about inventory. And we talked a little bit about that offline. But now more than ever, I think that hiring and retention have to be top notch because the people who joined during the pandemic aren't going to stick around because selling isn't what it used to be. And if we didn't train them back then on how to properly sell a car and not just be an order taker, they're not going to stick around.
I think it's going to be a bigger challenge than we're anticipating. The numbers are pretty significant. Like over 50% of people were hired into this kind of heyday, like the dream cycle of being in automotive, where, there was no real sale. It was, here's what I've got. Do you want it? And here's how big the gross is. And I think we were even in the back, where service advisors, you were happy if somebody would help you fix your car. And I think we got a little bit lazy in terms of keeping people on process, keeping a lot of people stopped their training because they were just surviving.
Yeah.
And now we're like really being overwhelmed at NCM, like getting people upskilled again to handle rejection. I'm sure you guys are seeing it with your training. It's like the salesperson that is needed today is going to have a more difficult customer and a lot more rejection. And they're not always equipped to handle that. So how do we fill that gap and get them, better? And service advisors getting beat up left and right. The customers are coming in hot.
Yeah.
So how do we de-escalate and have better customer experiences? How do we stick to process so that, we aren't having such, I guess, escalation in the stores, and customer experience can be better.
So to piggyback off of that, as the head of leadership development and executive coaching at NCM, what do you say are the most critical skills that leaders in the automotive industry need right now?
Oh, I've always changed my mind about that. But we just came out with a boot camp, and it's we went back and forth on the 6 modules because it's 6 modules of just like kind of fast, furious skill setting for leaders. And I definitely think hiring and interviewing, avoiding bad hires, avoiding bad attitudes, being able to identify who's going to fit into your team. Very few people have learned how to interview well. So it's kind of like they do this. Hey, I liked him. Jess, did you like him? Yeah, I liked him. Jess, did you like him? And you're like, okay, let's give him a shot.
Yeah.
And so there's so much more involved in terms of identifying. I think they come in more prepared than our interviewers are, the candidates. So a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted money on that. Communication, delegation, conflict resolutions, one we're getting a lot of requests for, because, as the job becomes more stressful again, how people are handling challenges interpersonally, how leaders are able to kind of, stay, have that moral high ground and model the behavior they want is really critical. So I think, communication, recognition, growth, and development. The number one thing that candidates are looking for is, how are you going to grow me?
Yep.
And this industry has all been about money. And of course, we all need money, but now you can get money anywhere. So now it's like, what is your value proposition for me to come work for you? And I always say, as a leader, you've got to be able to say, I'm going to make you your best self. I'm going to help develop you and grow you. You're going to reach new heights of success because I'm going to work with you one-on-one. So coaching one-on-one, big thing we're seeing change in the dealerships. So I even have a dealership that they changed all their titles from like sales manager, service manager to sales coach, service coach. Just
nice.
That mindset change.
I like that a lot.
Because coach is so much more about other people, where managing is I gotta manage the task.
Right.
Yes. So like, you're so spot on. It's like managing the task is different than leading the people, because leading the people, and if you just think about what a coach does, they push you, they push you to be your best, but they also practice with you. They challenge you. They push you. They hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do.
And they celebrate with you.
And they don't take the credit, right? They're like, so, and I also say, I'm like, and they don't go out on the field.
Yep.
Like, you don't need to jump in and do the job. You just need to make everybody on your team better prepared to do the job for you.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of managers, it's like, I keep calling it when I'm in training, don't do their laundry. And I say this because when I taught my children how to do their own laundry, it was a hot mess. Like, there was pink clothes, there was moldy clothes, there was clothes that never left the washer. They never got folded. Everything was always, but when they went off to college, I never did I never did their laundry again. And so sales managers and service managers and parts managers have to stop jumping in and doing it because it's easier in the short term. And you have to pull back and kind of do the coaching and the skill growing so that you're not still doing the job, you're leading the team. I don't know if you guys see that when you're out in the stores.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Always.
definitely.
So how is NCM's Talent Solutions Department helping leaders foster high-performing teams and drive retention?
Right now, we're doing a lot of work on culture and succession planning, which is interesting because I think what we're seeing is a lot of the boomers who maybe the dealer principals who were maybe going to retire or be on the board or kind of, had to step really back in during COVID just to survive the situation. Then, everybody was kind of loving the glory years, the last couple of years of all that revenue growth. And now it's getting back to normalizing, and we're seeing more of them like, okay, I want an exit plan, or I want to make sure if I'm going to get 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 more rooftops that I'm growing GMs, like I'm growing the talent so that I can scale. Because there's this big push now to either get out or scale. And so we're doing a lot on GM development. We have a 1-year GM program that is always full. But we're also building academies for dealer groups so we can come in and start training their future GMs or high potentials and also getting, their GMs more equipped to deal with all the changes that are happening. And so that's exciting. And then also, how do you scale your culture? And what I mean by that is consistency across your brand. Is it representative in every store, your values, how you want the customer treated, how you want the team to treat each other, that type of thing. So a lot of it is how do we scale what we've built into something that is your legacy and, you're proud of. And so what's interesting too about it is a lot of the leadership shift, to your point of coaching, having more empathy, valuing your people, listening to your people is somewhat of more of a natural female competency, which is why I think we're seeing more women kind of be in charge, in your words, or grow in that area, just because of the nature of what people now want in their boss versus what we used to want.
Right. I definitely can see every year that we are in the business and every year even that we're doing the show, the amount of women in leadership roles, and it's getting easier to find. When we first started, it was so hard.
We were making posts asking for women in leadership roles, and now we have an abundance of them.
Yeah. And it's so amazing to see. And the culture that follows. I mean, somebody that I follow and have for a while, we interviewed her in the past, was Liza Borges. And I mean, the way she runs her stores and is so involved in every single one of them. I mean, she is such a light to others. And to see more people like that popping up across the industry, people don't even know how much that's needed.
No, it was actually, that's funny. I was just talking with Liza last week about her women's program, and we're going to get involved, but we're actually building a women accelerator program because Liza and I were talking about this. We can't, to get a female GM, you have to have enough on the bench ready to go. So how do we accelerate more people being ready for being a GM in that natural path of 5 years on the floor, finance, desking? I mean, it's just too slow to ever change the top percentage. So how do we give them the leadership skills, the GM skills in order to escalate, elevate, get, more people on the bench ready to go? So excited to kind of work with her and other teams on how, because I'm always like, if I can't see it, I can't be it.
Yep.
And so many people we're seeing are dropping out as women in automotive because they're like, I don't see myself there. And so without the Lizas of the world kind of pointing the way and being like, yeah, you can do this. And you can, and again, to culture, Liza spends so much time on her dealership culture and her development of people. Been out there with her before, and she, it's such a light to see people doing it differently and it working.
Right.
Yep.
So
And I love Liza. I think that she is a trailblazer in the industry, and I'm super excited that you guys are teaming up on that, because that's going to be awesome.
And it's finding other great women dealers who have such great stories to tell. It's because it is a different road. But Liza does really want to point out, like, there's so much career opportunity outside of even, being a dealer. So how do we help? And I think, and what you guys are doing with women in automotive, I mean, that camaraderie, this podcast, to show that I think you can feel like sometimes very alone in a dealership if you don't know all these other women are out there and you don't get to go to conferences and you don't get to see, really what impact is being made.
Well, and I don't know if you know, but that was why we started the podcast, was because we knew how many people, if it wasn't for Robin Wilson, we wouldn't have gotten to go to these conferences. We wouldn't have gotten to make the amazing connections like you, like Liza, like Fred and Lou that we've made in our industry. And we recognize that. And we know that so many BDMs and so many marketing directors, they don't get to go to conferences to make these same connections, to hear what's out there and what is the innovation in the industry has come to. And so we knew that it was super important to get that out somehow, where the up and coming generation, whether it be men or women, have somewhere to go to find resources and connections that operate with integrity and align with our core values.
Well, and I think it is. It's like being able to hear what other stores are doing or other people to know there's a different way to do it than it's been done over the years. I always challenge my dealers. I'm like, let's have a meeting and let's kill a stupid rule. And I'm always like, why do we do it that way? Why do we do it that way? And it's like, trying to come up with, we've always done it that way, get out of that mindset and be some innovative. And to your BDMs, I was just with, so NCM has 20 groups and we have several BD 20 groups. And I was in one of them and they had shared that 5 women had gone on from that group to become a general manager.
Wow.
And I was like, that is a new track. So what you guys are doing, when we just talked about getting more female GMs, that they can come through this side, is a huge opportunity for all of us to build on. So
that's amazing.
Well, and it starts somebody off with the proper knowledge of BDC. So often, I've worked with stores, and I know there's more than even the ones I've worked with across the country, that sales and BDC are always butting heads, and never in agreement. And so to have somebody in leadership, and I mean, honestly, I think everybody in sales needs to start off in the BDC so that they can understand what hard work that is, and mindless and burnout heavy. And so to have somebody go into a GM position knowing the benefits of having a good operational BDC, it's so important and can help honestly drive that sales team forward with that collaboration between the both departments.
And I do, and I think you're right. It's like, it used to be, I'd be like, why are your salespeople not responsible for this building of relationship before they even get here? To me, is the most critical piece. And we're just making it easy. We do all the hard stuff, BDC, and then they get to the sales floor and it's like, oh, here, drive the pretty car. I love the groups that are doing like a hybrid version of that, where everybody is responsible for being good at emailing, being good at follow up, working your book of business, not just because the younger generation, everyone's like, oh, they don't want to work. And I'm like, no, they don't want to work inefficiently. If that makes sense. Like, they don't like sitting around.
Right.
They don't like wasting time. So if I can not work bell to bell, but I can work efficiently, get my book of business, follow up on my book, get referrals from them, work it like most of corporate America works sales, then I'm going to have people get more done in a smaller amount of time, not have to be there waiting for just a random appointment that may or may not show, because I've done the work. And I don't know, I think there's a huge opportunity to shift what you guys, specialize in throughout, as you said, the whole sales situation, BDC in the back even. I mean, just better scheduling so that we have more efficient, labor rates and ROs and again, customers aren't waiting forever because we just let everybody come in whenever they want to. I mean, just a lot of opportunity to shift how we, I guess, almost schedule and build relationships from, the work you guys do.
Have you guys done any studies on that yet on shifting schedules? That's something I saw Glenn Lundy mention recently about how he's setting up his store and the days off, weeks off, stuff like that.
I wish I saw another one yesterday because Angela Rizzo commented on it. It was on LinkedIn about unlimited PTO days. And I don't remember who posted it. And I know that Glenn commented on it and may have been Michael Cirillo. I don't remember who posted it. But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, I love as an incentive. I mean, first off, PTO is like just hysterical, the PTO conversation. Some people still don't give PTO at all. And I'm like, well, good luck with that. That makes no sense. The 4-day work week for service advisors, the 4-day work week for the front, we're starting to see some flexibility. The stronger you are at scheduling and saying, hey, maybe don't come in on Saturday, come in on Tuesday, I can get you in and out of here faster. The better your BDC is at that or that piece of it, we can start having better schedules. And that helps attract a different kind of candidate to the role. So I definitely see that. Unlimited PTO, I've always loved for my top salespeople as an incentive because to be a top salesperson, they have to be responsible and know when they should work and when they can't work and what's the best time for them. And if we kind of overmanage sometimes our top people, it's like they sell 20 cars a month and then they sell 19 one month and we go crazy on them. And instead I'm like, hey, they're beating themselves up. Those types of people beat themselves up more and they're not going to take advantage of the unlimited PTO. They want to hit, it's all about output more than time.
Right.
I can see the shift, but very old school controlling leaders it's hard to let go of that control. Like, I know if you're here and I have you here all the time, this model works and I make money. So it's hard to be the Glens who try new things. And sometimes we'll fail, but you're still trying and innovating. We have to encourage new ways of looking at that.
Always.
Well, and something interesting, I was actually a part of a conversation earlier this week, kind of similar to that was talking about a sales team that had to make X amount of calls per day, like even the top sales guys. And I think it was a post by Trent Cannon. I'm pretty sure he said that the GM wanted the salespeople to make 150 calls a day, I believe.
Oh my.
Yeah. And he's like, we sat down with our best BDR and timed her, and it takes her an average of 3 minutes and 36 seconds to handle one customer between call, text, email, reading the profile, doing all of that stuff.
Doing it right.
Contact?
Yeah, that was, I think, just one where she had to leave a voicemail. But
voicemail. Yeah.
How are they also going to sell a car?
There's no way.
Well, and I think the customer can pick up on, hey, it's Fleming, call me back. Hey, I have a car for you. I mean, it's very inauthentic and they're just checking a list. And when you, and I always say, my biggest, when I'm working with my GMs and yelling at them, sorry, GM, but I'm like, you've got to tie to their why. Okay. So if your why is just, you want to buy a house, or just maybe you want, a motorcycle, or you want to take your family to Disney World, whatever is driving you to go to the next level, I've got to figure that out. And then I need to sit down with you and be like, okay, how much more money is that you need to make? How many more cars is it that you need to get in here? How many more? And your numbers are going to be different than the BDR, like next to you and the salesperson next to you. So if it takes you 20 calls to get 10 appointments to close 5 deals in a week, then good for you. Yep. But to treat everybody the same when they don't have the same capacity, skill set, mindset, drive, I think you beat up the really driven people that you don't need to dictate to, and you drive them away. And then they end up just not knowing why they're doing it. They're just doing it, I call it discretionary effort. They're doing everything just to keep the job, which I call a level 1 leader, when they're working for you just because they have to. Like, you pay them. And I'm like, really quickly, you need to move to level 2 where they want to work for you. And that's a big difference in how much effort I'm going to give you, whether it's 100 calls or 10 calls. Are they, just me checking a box so you don't fire me? Then that's a completely different culture, attitude. And, you guys talked about high performance teams. It's when everybody's being their best self and treated with value that we get that performance level up.
Absolutely. So you have various certifications and different leadership and management profiles. I know that a couple of those were like the DISC assessment, and there was another one too. I heard John Maxwell was the other one.
Yeah.
How do you feel that those enhance your approach to your executive coaching?
What's interesting is we were just talking about it when we're doing our lead dev program. John Maxwell, I think he's in his 80s. So he's been talking about leadership, forever.
Oh.
It's all the same kind of philosophies, frameworks. People put different spins on things. So it's not particularly like anything I have is rocket science, but I do love to learn as much as I can about it and then dealerize it is what I would say, so that I can and be tactical with the dealers because they want practical, fast,
Yep.
let frameworks come. Here's, step by one, step by two, to do things faster. It's just the impatience of the industry. But one of my favorite laws, John Maxwell does a book of laws of leadership. And my favorite law is the law of the lid. Have you guys ever heard of this?
Yep. Oh yeah. We read that book as that leadership team.
Okay. Yeah. So I almost start all of my keynotes with GMs or leaders with the law of the lid. And it's, you are the blocker, you're the lid on your team's output. And the more you keep your leadership down, the more, as you guys know, if they're level 7 or 8, you're going to have 6, 7s, and 5s on your team. If you're a level 3 leader, you're only going to have 2s and 1s. Really hard to get the job done because they just won't work for a leader. Those high performance people won't work for leaders who don't have good skills. And leadership is a skill set. It's not just, yes, some people have a natural lean, but it's really something you have to practice just as much as your sales skills, your technician skills, your, accounting skills. So we have to elevate, I think, leadership in the dealership to build these more high performing teams. So we go to a lot of programs and models and then build them to fit kind of the day-to-day reality of the dealership is probably, I think, where learning all those different certifications and programs has helped us.
I don't know of a single dealership that could not benefit from working with you guys. Oh my gosh, just driving forward everybody in the dealership, whether they're sales, whether they're BDC service advisors, driving them to be a better version of them. Every dealer should want that for their employees.
Well, and for me, every leader should want some time off. Everybody should not feel so stressed and that it takes a toll on your family life and on, so it's like my dream is when you provide a leader some real skills, frameworks, mindsets, kind of take some of their blinders off and then they have a life and they're happy with their team and they like to go to work. You're affecting whole communities at that point, which is kind of the fun of what we get to do. And, a lot of what I end up having to do is question the beliefs we've all had over the years. Nobody wants to work and, I can't find anybody or there's just these things we've told each other that have become very normalized in automotive. And we get to go to dealerships that do it great and study what they do. We get to sit in the 20 groups and hear what they're doing and people are doing some phenomenal things. And so you do have now those best practices to point to, but sometimes we do have to kind of get people to stop making excuses for if their team's not working. I'm like, well, first I got to look at you. What are you doing? Are you not hiring the right people? Are you not coaching and growing them? Are you not holding them accountable? Accountability is a big issue. I don't know if you guys see that, where they ignore the problems because they don't know how to deal with them. So, it's really fun and it's great to be able to impact teams and therefore, of course, impact hopefully the industry into being, it still surprises me that it's not one of the top places people want to get jobs at when it has so much opportunity.
And it's funny because I think almost every interview we do, whenever we ask someone, how did you get into auto, is always an accident.
Oh, yeah.
It was never intentional.
Unless you're born, mama or dad has
it was a stepping stone.
Yeah, it was just a stepping stone. And now they're here and they got stuck and they stayed. And it's amazing to me that we don't have more people saying, okay, why is this happening? Why are these people staying in auto when they accidentally stumble in it to begin with?
Well, and I think for you guys, if I were going in and looking at helping them build their BD teams and so forth, looking at their career pages, can you find their career pages? What are they saying on Glassdoor? What is the test? Like, what do we value? What do we care about? What's the growth path? Like, they should tell their story just as much as they market to the customer. They should be marketing to their future employees. And, it's how do you help them attract better BD people? Because as you said, that's a great entree into the dealership world because they learn a lot of great skills that are critical for so many roles. But we have to do a better job of changing the narrative about why it's great to work in a dealership. And I think we accept that we accept that we can't get that talent. And we've got to spin that story a little bit more to change the mindset of what people think it's like to work here.
Right.
Yep.
How do we get that talent?
Yeah. And it's kind of cool. Like, it's the first thing I do if I'm like starting to talk to a dealer, I like go right to their career site because it gives me a lot of insight into how much they've already focused on their people strategy. Do they have a reason to come work for them? Do they have a reason to stay working for them? And those are some really easy kind of opportunities to help them elevate their teams.
That's really good insight and makes me want to go check out ours.
I know.
Well, it's so funny. I just had my 2 daughters just graduated from college, and the way they went about evaluating who to apply to, what they evaluated when they got there was like, I was just always like, just give me a job. I'll take anything. They were interviewing back and they were like looking at reviews and they were researching it and they were putting it out on TikTok and asking people about it. And then the ones they got excited about it was really like, what did they stand for? How did they give back? All of them offered them similar money, but it was how they were growing, treating, facing the world, how much more important that is and I don't think it's just their generation. I think it's after COVID.
Yep.
How are you going to care about me? How am I going to be part of something bigger than myself? We've got to share that story more from automotive, which is so cool that you guys, the more that people are representing the industry is where we start to shift that mindset.
Well, and the really cool thing about that too, when they're going in with that mindset of, I want to interview you back, it shows that they're interested in longevity there.
Right.
And it's not just a stepping stone or it's not just, a temporary fix. So often I think when we hire someone, we think of them, okay, well, I need to fill this seat right now, but we don't ever think about what are they thinking? How long do they want to be here? Is this until they save up enough money to do their passion or what is this? And so I think as an employer, we can all do better to remember that this could potentially be the career path this person chooses because of me hiring them right now.
Right.
Well, all the way down to like the porter. I love the stories. Like, I started as the porter and now I'm the GM. People they're like, oh, I just had to fill the role. I'm like, nobody that you bring on should not be a future potential long-term employee for you. And I always, whenever I'm teaching, I was actually just with a 20 group of controllers or CFOs. And I was like, I need you to do 3 interviews. And they're like, that's too many. That's too much. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, people don't, that's just, it's going to take too long. And I'm like, okay, do you want to be the person at the bar who's desperate and will take anybody home? Or do you want to be a little selective and come across as hard to get? Because you guys are coming across like that desperate, I'll go home with anybody person. And in the eye of the candidate, they're like, ooh, like top people are like, that's a turnoff, if that makes sense. So top type A people who are interviewing for their careers, you just mentioned, they're looking for a chat. Like, they're looking for, like, can I get on here? Will they call me? Will I make it? And so if you hire them on the spot, it just sends a message that you're hiring anybody on the spot and they're really not that important. A quick, easy win for most dealerships is just put in a stronger, longer hiring process. And it could be 3 interviews in 2 days. You can do it quickly, but you should have a set interview questions. You should have, like, I want them going home going, I hope they call me or text me or whatever. Right. And just for example, like, some of the groups like Sewell's and Penske, the ones that are legendary, their interview process is like 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you got to get a job in the meantime just to keep paying your bills.
Well, my point is, why are we hiring people who don't have jobs? Well, why aren't we stealing good people from their jobs who need to then, resign? And, so if we were going after the right people versus if we just put an ad in Indeed and we're just getting all the people who can't keep a job. So it's just changing. I'm going to go build my team, find my talent. When I run across someone in the industry that I feel like has a lot of talent, has a good attitude, they're in I have a little candidate folder, not that I'm hiring, I'd be like, to keep in mind, to stay in touch with. Because if I want to add to my team, I'm not putting it out on Indeed. Right. I'm going to my files of people that I've already been impressed with. I've already seen working hard, already have shown me good attitude. That's how you kind of ensure that your team is top notch.
Very much that.
It's a relationship game.
Mm-hmm.
All the way.
And I always say, always be interviewing or recruiting. Always be recruiting at every trade show. Even if you're don't have an opening. And even in dealer communities, I'll get my dealers cards that say, I was really impressed with your service today. If you're ever looking for a job, call me. And you can just hand it to, somebody at the hotel who upsold you, or somebody who got you to buy 3 desserts for the table. Or, you can always tell that good attitude when you're out in your communities. So
I like that a lot.
I do too. What is one piece of advice that you would give somebody up and coming in the industry right now, if they were to walk through a dealership the doors today?
Oh, good question. Learn. learn. I find a lot of the industry takes the learning they can get at their store and they don't go get any on their own. So you're just limited to those lessons, mindsets, frameworks, whatever is in your store or the couple of stores you work in. And you can't grow this team we're talking about. You can't grow yourself if you're not always upskilling yourself. And when I got into the workforce, you couldn't go on YouTube and learn anything. I mean, what I'm talking about learning is free. Listening to your podcasts, listening to people who've already done things. So podcasts and YouTube videos and all of that, like to commit to learning every day so that you have more confidence, especially when Liza and NCM and even women in automotive, we've been talking about why aren't there more women GMs? We still think there's a confidence concern that I can't do it. And so our answer to that is let's give them the confidence through knowledge so they know so much that they feel like they can be in those conversations and lead, those organizations. So for me, it would be committing to always teaching yourself, owning your own growth, not relying on your employer.
I like that.
Man, I had a title for this episode and I may have just changed it.
I think we have it. I love it. Well, Fleming, we really appreciate you coming on the show today. It has been a blast to chat with you.
Quite a joy.
Where can our listeners reach out to you if they want to connect with you after the show?
Definitely, on LinkedIn, Fleming Ford. And also, if you can reach me at NCM. If you hit our website, they will get the message to me. So ncmassociates.com. And also email is fford@ncmassociates.com. So happy to chat with anybody about, as an executive coach, I've always liked trying to coach people up. So love.
I imagine after listening to this, you'll have several people reaching out to you. That was a lot of good knowledge you dropped. I mean, that was good.
Oh, thank you guys. Always enjoy talking with you both.
Us too.
Yes, us too. All right. In a world where you can be anything, be kind, because you never know what battles others are facing. So while out in the world this week, remember to
light it up.
I'm Jess.
I'm Shasta.
And that's Fleming. And we've been the Chicks in Charge. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Yay, you've made it this far. And if you want to help the chicks out and add some value, make sure you subscribe right now.
Click that little red button down below. Do it. Do it now.